What's up, guys? This is Jake from the Tree of Woe Show with our September 3rd Raw review, coming to you live from my basement. WWE came to you live from Chicago. Since they're in Chicago, they gotta do it big. CM Punk, the champ, is from Chicago, and we start off the show with him beating up Jerry the King Lawler backstage. Oh no! Oh no! It was crazy. It was one of those moments where I didn't see it coming. And after it happened, I should have saw that coming. It makes so much sense. And then Sheamus comes out, and for like 2 minutes, I was like, "Oh, this sucks. What's Sheamus doing here? Why is Sheamus out there? You know, when there's all this Punk stuff to figure out." Then Punk comes out, huge pop. I don't know if they're trying to get CM Punk to be like a different sort of face, and they're gonna go like one sort of face versus another, as opposed to heel face. If they do that, it's gonna work out great. Because CM Punk is still over with people like me, people like probably watching this video, and the people of Chicago. He quotes The Wire, which is the biggest markout moment of the night, when he says, "You come at the king, you best not miss." Omar said that season 1. Don't you dare shoot at Omar. Don't you dare come at CM Punk. And if you do, you better not miss. CM Punk and Sheamus go back and forth. There were some times in there where you could tell Sheamus was like, "I'm the nice face, I can't really go into that." And it kind of seemed like forced a little. Like Sheamus' part seemed kind of forced because it was a different thing, like a different sort of scenario, situation for him to be in. But it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And after that, AJ announces that we're getting 2 main events tonight, a champion versus champion, and Del Rio versus Cena. Champion versus champion is big deal. Middle of a Raw at the start of September, battling college football. Let's throw it out there and see what happens. Speaking of throwing it out there, we get Ziggler versus Randy Orton in what started off on SmackDown, or it started off on SmackDown a little while ago. If you haven't watched SmackDown, then you probably like the fact that they recapped it. I didn't mind it, but Orton beat Sheamus on SmackDown on Friday. Orton beat Ziggler. Orton beats everybody. I get confused. Orton beat Ziggler, so Ziggler gets the rematch, and Orton, he's still a little bit rusty. Let's just say that. There were some moments in there where I felt like I was watching the Big Show move. He doesn't have that like trust in Ziggler and all that to have like the type of speed where it's like, okay, well, let's go quicker this way. And his like no selling kind of fades in comparison to Dolph's. The match didn't click as well as it could have, but Dolph got a roll up with the tights, and he had a part in there where we had him in a sleeper and then bridged it. It was pretty awesome. And right before the match, The Miz came out on commentary, and The Miz or maybe after, I'm not really sure, but The Miz was killing it the entire night. More on that to come later. On Ziggler and Orton, though, I do think they're going to throw at Night of Champions. They're going to throw in a match for the briefcase. And I think because they're kind of realizing that they had the opportunity to give Ziggler a marquee win on pay-per-view, and then for some reason they went with Jericho last minute. And then they're probably like, "Oh, well, we got to do something to make sure this guy has something going for him." So what should we do? Let's put him with Orton. Orton might be going to film a movie. It might be what's happening, but Orton versus Ziggler is probably up at Night of Champions. They'll probably have a better match than the one on Raw. And after that, we cut to anger collages. Daniel Bryan's was a bunch of yeses and nos, and Kane was a blank sheet of paper. That was what was going on inside of him. Crumples it up, throws it in the trash can. Fire. These segments have been killing it and continue to be killing it. So I didn't like them from the start. I was like, "Oh, anger management, this is dumb." But they've saved it somehow. They've made it worthwhile and all of that, and it's something you look forward to. Every single time, it's like, "Oh, we're going to have a couple of these." Great. Awesome. Then we get Rey and Sin Cara versus Cody, Rhodes, and Lord Tensai. Not Lord Tensai, just Tensai. And Rhodes is still obsessing over the masks, and Tensai was just kind of there. But it's one like who do you put in there is the thing. Like I was sitting there, I was like, "Ah, Tensai." Not a big Tensai guy, but who else is the heel you can throw into there where it's just like, oh yeah, it makes sense to put him with Rhodes without these guys. And there's nobody, so might as well put somebody like Tensai on there who's not involved in anything else and see what happens there. But Rey and Sin Cara, not bad together. And looks like whatever Rey's there, Sin Cara really hasn't been doing anything bad in this entire part. So maybe we're building towards them either. I don't think they're going to become a tag team. I do think Rhodes is going to go after the mask still for a little while. Who knows? Maybe they're trying to slowly build this up to where somebody else becomes infatuated with the mask too, and it becomes a tag match. That's how they become a tag team. There's a lot of things they can do with this. Hopefully they don't just throw this at Night of Champions like, oh, Sin Cara versus Cody Rhodes, Night of Champions with Rey Mysterio in the quarter for the mask, because it's not bad. It's just holding back from what it could be. And then we cut back to the anger management sessions, and they're doing this trust drill. Daniel Bryan falls, and Kane catches him after some trepidation and all that. Like, oh, he's not going to fall. And then they drop Harold. Harold goes, falls, and then look at each other like, oh, you get me. Hence the tag team. Not a bad tag team if they were to go that route. This guy named Harold totally sold the fall. And they're going to have another segment later on in the show that kind of sort of builds with this, but it's interesting. Like, I don't know what they're going to do with these, and that's kind of what's good. And then we're at the first hour main event. Sheamus is in the ring, and CM Punk comes out in jeans, and he says, yeah, I'm just going to take the night off. You know, it's Labor Day. Well, you probably took the day off. I'm taking the day off. And then he just walked out and left. But in the process, he didn't really get booed, because he's kind of like, I should be at the end of the show. This shouldn't be on a Raw. And it's one of those things where you can't boo the guy if you agree with everything he's saying. And he leaves, and as he leaves, he's talking to AJ, and it kind of sets up something else. Where he's like, see you later, AJ. I'm leaving. And AJ's just like, oh, you're leaving? No. Well, let's find an opponent. And then it's Jack Swagger. Jack Swagger's been at the doghouse recently. He just keeps losing. Sheamus uses a Texas Cloverleaf to beat him with Del Rio on commentary. Then the Texas Cloverleaf was kind of weird. Maybe he's going to throw it in there. Maybe he's going to call it the Irish Cloverleaf, fella. The 4-leaf clover. And what, I mean, for a guy who already has all these finishers he's tried out, maybe they're trying to get the Brogue Kick as kind of like a flash one and have a more solid one where he makes guys tap. He's a face who can actually have a submission hold, but the Texas Cloverleaf might not be a bad thing. No one's really done it for a while, and it's not like, I mean, it's iconic, you know, but it's not the same thing if you were to do the figure 4 or the sharpshooter. People would be like, oh, he's tarnishing the move. But this is probably the least of it, you know. And then he lays out Del Rio and Ricardo, and he hits Ricardo with the Brogue Kick, and Ricardo sells it, knocked out entirely, like to the point where he was like not moving, not breathing. It was crazy. Del Rio and Ricardo they didn't even get on commentary. They just kind of sat there and kind of built towards it. Sorry. But what are they going to do there? Like, how long are we going to see the same Del Rio and Ricardo dynamic? Or, as we see later on in the show, maybe they're going to turn things. Maybe Sheamus is going to get an edge. I don't know. Who knows? Then Eve beats Caitlyn, and Layla's on commentary, and Layla and the Miz just go back and forth the entire time. It was pretty crazy, and Eve is trying to play up like the whole overly nice, so that way when she acts like a heel later, it's going to get a bigger reaction. I like it. You can tell she's not being genuinely nice, but at the same time, you can't boo somebody who's that hot. I mean, you could, but she's got to do stuff like this and then be really mean to where you can justify it. But women's division, everyone talks about how bad it is. It's really not that bad now because they give it a slot right after Sheamus versus Jack Swagger, which was originally Sheamus versus CM Punk, at like the start where the show normally was. So it's, you know, they're doing something. And they're not going to be like, you know what, we're going to main event pay-per-views with our women. They're going to slowly build up and see at what point do they top out. And maybe they can ride up a little bit higher. I feel like they might top out with it just being a staple in the middle of the show, which isn't a bad thing. It's a lot better than when it's not on the show. You can't really complain. And then after that, Jack Swagger is walking out, has his tights over his shoulder, and says, "You know what, AJ, I'm going to take some time off." And AJ kind of goes through all this. Oh, well, all these guys keep leaving. Brock, Chris, CM Punk left today, Jack Swagger, and maybe a couple other people. Didn't take notes on that. Brother Coley sent me a text and goes, "Is she going to use this to bring back people since all these people are leaving? Is she going to use this to be like, well, I'm going to bring back guys to fill these spots? They're going to be guys like Mark Henry and Wade Barrett. Maybe she's going to bring up some new guys. Probably not some new guys. That's not going to help her out a whole lot because she's not, I don't know. She gets a good reaction and it'd be good to put, you know, the younger faces with her like, oh, well, I'm just going to see, these are the next guys in the company, I guess, so let's put them up there with them. But at the same time, if you put more established people with her, it makes her look more legit as a GM. And obviously it's going to happen a little bit later, but she's going to need that credibility at some point, or else it's just going to be like the girl who's given this power and gets rocked all over, and it's getting kind of boring. It's not boring at this point, because she does some crazy stuff later, but looking long term, she's going to have to do something to where it makes her look somewhat credible. And then Daniel Bryan and Kane almost fight in anger management. It was like the last part where they're talking about it. And Daniel Bryan's like, I'll give you a rematch anytime you want from our SummerSlam match. And Daniel's like, okay. And the Kane's like, okay, I will beat you. Ah. And they get back and forth. And it's kind of like, oh, there goes the tag team. Or is it just the dynamic to where they're putting it off a little bit longer and building up? I don't know what they're building towards. It's not a tag team. Because these guys fighting for anger management thing when they both have kind of returned from what they were at before. It's like entirely different. They've developed as characters to where they could be a perfect team, not even perfect opponents anymore. But whatever. Ryback beats Jinder, and The Miz the entire time's like, yeah, Ryback's awesome. I wouldn't want to. I face Ryback entirely different. He's like, Ryback has all the physical tools, but he doesn't have the psychology yet to hang with it. And he started talking about guys like Shawn Michaels and all those guys who were smaller but had the psychology and had the experience, but didn't have the physical tools. He goes, I could beat the Ryback. He didn't say the Ryback, but he could beat the Ryback at that point because he knows how to fight people like that. And it all built up the Ryback. I mean, he's faced Jinder Mahal so many times. You're just like, oh, whatever. Basic squash and Jinder. Well, it's no big deal. But when you have somebody on there who's, you know, building it up and he's a character. I mean, they're not going to do this at Night of Champions. If they could, they could be sick. But they're going to build up the Ryback the right way. Have be like, he has all these physical tools, and when he eventually loses, it's going to be a flaw in the armor that he's going to have to fix before he takes that next step. And it's going to have an actual character arc and development and peaks and valleys and all that. Because right now, he's still on the way up. Because he's a freak and people are cheering for him. At some point, he's going to top out. And at that point, WWE has to say, first loss. So that way they can rebuild. Because you can't just have to stay here and expect him to stay steady. Because he's going to fall either way. Might as well take advantage of that fall and give it a twist to the character. So hopefully they do that. You know, Ryback has a lot of potential with how loud of cheers he gets, what he can do, and the fact that he doesn't talk makes him entirely different. A Ryback match is something that's entirely different from the other stuff they do. It's not like this soap opera. It's like and the Goldberg chants aren't bad, and Goldberg was kind of the same way in WCW. Goldberg wasn't, you know, the long promo with Hogan or the cruiserweights or anything like that. He was, once the Goldberg match started, you're just like, oh snap, he's walking up from the outside, and who's he gonna fight? And how fast is he gonna beat him? And can he beat him? And if they're doing that and follow that properly with the Ryback will be fine. The Ryback will be, he could go for the IC title right now and nobody would complain. But why not see how far you can ride him up before he starts to go like that? And at that point, either bring the IC title up to where he's at, or hopefully he's on par with the World Heavyweight Championship, and you can put the big gold belt on him and say, you're either going to work with this, or we're going to have to go back and scrap and build you up, again. The same thing I can do with Sandow, because Sandow's at that point to where how high can Damian Sandow get before he starts to get boring and monotonous? Because Brodus Clay didn't even get to the U.S. Championship level before before he topped out. Sandow's already, if Sandow were competing against The Miz at Night of Champions, nobody would complain. It makes sense, and it'd kind of feel like, wow, well, this guy was fighting Sheamus, and now he's fighting the IC title, so he's already at that level. And let's see how far they can ride these out, because they have two potential stars right there with what they're doing. And then we have Daniel Bryan and Kane hugging it out. If you didn't see this and you're watching me to find out about it, watch this segment, the Hug It Out segment. It was incredible. There was 3 options from a Twitter poll: WWE match, tag, WWE tag, and WWE hug. And hug won unanimously. And they kind of had this long, drawn-out process. They hugged, and then they fought, and then they got separated. And it's able to get them back in anger management and kind of show that they do have a potential to be a team and really build up something towards that. We won't see them at Night of Champions as this tag team yet. Hopefully they don't rush it. But if they put it up towards Vengeance and all that, Vengeance wouldn't be bad, because I think it might be 2 weeks after Night of Champions or something like that. But at Vengeance, if you see those two competing for the tag titles, that's going to bring the prestige of the tag championships back to where it was when Air Boom was at least. Because the tag team championships lost a whole lot of luster when Evan Bourne went down. And putting R-Truth in there, you're like, oh yeah, but it felt like a different team, and they didn't really earn it, and I don't know. It's just this will be good, and putting Kofi and R-Truth apart from each other, because they don't have anything in common other than them being black. Letting Kofi go do his own thing for a little while could really help out somebody like Antonio Cesaro or The Miz in one of those mid-card feuds, because he's a serious contender as a face that people actually care about. After that, speaking of Antonio Cesaro, great segue by me. He makes quick work of Santino, and Santino, he's powers up the Cobra, I guess. It's something entirely different from what they're doing with everything else. It's not geared towards people like us, so I'm not going to, like, Santino's really not. They'll make Santino have meetings like, you know what, we give Santino that edge, we're going to make it so it appeals to the young adults. Santino's for kids. Cesaro's for adults, so it kind of clashes there. So Cesaro at this point is more based towards kids, but he could be a legit champion later on. At this point, for him to take that next step, he's got to break away from Santino. He's got that's cheap heat for him. Santino gets a different type of heat that's sustainable for anyone that faces him. See the fact that there's nobody Santino's really put over at this point who's stayed over. So let's have Cesaro over somebody for real after this. Let's not put him against Brodus Clay, because he's going to be that guy who just takes down the gimmick champions, and then he's not going to be a heel, because people who aren't on the bandwagon of Santino and Brodus Clay are going to start cheering him, and then impressionable kids are going to be like, oh well, I should probably cheer him too. So Cesaro has a lot of potential. Hopefully they don't mess it up. His theme is awful though. They gave him this new theme. It's like Dean Malenko rapping almost. It's bad. It's real bad. Like the theme he had before wasn't super bad, but this one is awful. And I was trying to be, I was like, that's one of the worst things I've ever heard. It's worse than Wade Barrett when he got his new one. And you think you're like, oh yeah, themes might not be that important, until you hear a bad theme. You're like, he needs a good theme, And then we have Zack Ryder versus Heath Slater both starting in the ring. Ryder gets the win. Nothing really. It was kind of like a blow off of a Twitter feud. Yeah, that wasn't bad. And then probably the funniest moment of the night, Vicky comes out in the ring, says she's not leaving until AJ comes to talk to her. Gets a chair, puts a chair in the ring after the commercial, and starts talking to it like Clint Eastwood did during the Republican National Convention. And I was hysterically rolling on the ground in laughter. I'm not kidding when I say I was on the ground with laughter, because it was one of those things where you could tell she took a shot. I don't know if she had permission to take this shot. Probably didn't. But she took a shot at Clint Eastwood when he spoke to the chair. Like, you know, as like saying that Barack Obama was in it, you know. Like, oh, we're called Barack, don't talk to him. If you haven't seen it, it's really, if you like train wrecks, you should rewatch Clint Eastwood talking to the chair. If not, I'm not saying this to bash the Republicans, but that was bad. That was one of those moments where you sit there and you just go, where's Mick? But Vicky making fun of it was awesome. AJ comes out and she kind of shows, she said, like, she talks about how the board of directors are apologize and goes through that. You can tell that this is kind of leading to something where people are walking over her, and then she kind of freaks out in the ring afterwards. So is she going to snap and just entirely go crazy and start doing crazy stuff? Or is she going to use this to kind of like snap in a different way and be like, I'm getting power, you're not going to walk all over me, and she's going to have a group of people that protect her interests? I don't know, but at least they're doing some of this AJ thing that's not stupid, because they could just roll out there and be like, oh, she's crazy, but Vicky, who's the #1 woman heel, is I don't know if she's putting her over yet, but she's using her heel heat to get Vicky some actual reaction. Vicky's reaction didn't translate over to Dolph, as evident by the fact that she gets booed and she says, excuse me, Dolph's music hits, people start going crazy, like they did tonight. So, if she's not translating Dolph, maybe she should be helping AJ in the opposite, sort of like she's the foil to AJ on the come up. And maybe AJ might stick for a while as the GM. Who knows? They'll probably put Vince back in there as soon as Linda loses the Senate seat. He's going to start firing people because he's not a job creator anymore. The final match of the night was announced as a Falls Count Anywhere, Cena versus Del Rio. Basic Falls Count Anywhere. This match has happened 20 times probably, with how many times these two have fought. And then they go backstage, and then Cena hits the attitude adjustment on Del Rio onto some boxes or something. It was kind of like, I don't really know how to describe it, because it was like moving things, but they didn't really have, like, they were closed on the top. But that's right. He goes, and then Punk kicks him, and then Del Rio wins, and then Punk puts up the GTS and throws him off the front of his car, a Chrysler 300, and it just shows that Punk is a Breaking Bad fan, because, well, I'm just not going to spoil it, but they use Chrysler 300s in that as well. Overall, Raw wasn't as bad as people are going to make it out to be, because it had moments in there that I thoroughly enjoyed. There are some moments where I felt like I was banging my head against a wall, but you take everything that comes with it. It wasn't bad. Let me know your thoughts. Do your basic comment stuff. I might reply, Jess might reply. If I reply, you'll have to say hashtag or -Jake. Like this video. If you haven't subscribed, probably should subscribe to us, because we are awesome. And we have Michael Jordan posters, more Michael Jordan posters over here. If I can get over there, but yeah. Anyways, this is Trio Show signing off. Good night.